Cocaine is derived from the leaves of the coca plant. When cocaine enters the body, it has a strong effect on body functions by acting as an irritant on the brain. Large overdose of cocaine causes convulsions, then death. Cocaine causes unusual and often unpredictable feelings and actions. In his ignorance, Marty took that dare, little knowing the eventual horror that lay in the deadly white powder.
Marty, have you seen the painting chairs I bought last week? Can't seem to find them anywhere. Marty, you don't seem right. I'm worried about you. There's something wrong. I'm going to take you down to Dr. Peters this afternoon for a checkup.
No, I'm all right.
As his body gradually built up intolerance, he needed more and more of the drug.
Welcome to K.I.S.S Recovery 101. This is Bridge Sky. This is pre-recorded. It is 7:13, July 2nd. But I could not be in studio because I wanted to play this interview that I did for Creators Canvas, WFNU 94.1, featuring two members of Twin Citizen. They are awesome. 4 of their members are in recovery, and the story of how they found each other is amazing. So please listen in to this interview, and then after, some of their songs are gonna play, and there's a big reason why I wanted to feature this tonight. So I don't know if you have all been on social media, especially Facebook. There's this thing called Mobilize Recovery. So September 30th this year is a big day, and all of us that are trying to be out loud and spread awareness of, recovery and preventing overdose. There's a big thing going on in DC, and I actually am one of the people that have been picked to go there. And so all of us are encouraged, not just the people going to DC, but anyone in recovery, September 30th, to host a community event, just to, help your community wherever you live. Do something, that can help your community, whether it's a clothes drive or a food drive or, overdose training, prevention, awareness. Steve Remler, Hope Network, I still do trainings for them. Just whatever you can do, and I'm excited. My idea is a little bit out there, but I think I can pull it off. Again, there's a big reason I wanted you guys to hear this interview with Twin Citizen. So they have confirmed for my idea, so now I'm just getting a couple more things in place, and then I'm excited to share it, and I'm excited to let you guys enjoy the rest of this weekend. Happy 4th of July coming up here. Anyways, listen to the interview. It's about 30 minutes, and then a couple songs are gonna play, and then so it won't be live, but feel free to leave comments because I'm gonna be listening to it and watching the comments. So I love you guys. Have a great week this week, and make sure to listen in next week. I will be hitting steps 6 and 7 through the women's way, men versus women, women versus men, with my regular co-host Mike. So that will be live next week. And I got to meet Stephanie Covington, who's the author of A Women's Way through the 12 steps. So women versus men. It will be exciting. But for now, happy Sunday, happy July 2nd, and recovery out loud, you guys. All right, thanks for listening, and here is the interview.
Ready for takeoff.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is Creators Canvas with host Bridge May Sky. Namaste. Frogtown Community Radio, St. Paul, Twin Cities. Thank you for listening on WFNU 94.1 FM.
We are Twin Citizen, at least a couple of us. I'm Joe.
Yeah, and I'm Adam. We got 3 other members of the band that weren't able to make it tonight. Excited to be here and have a conversation with you.
And I mean, it's the singer and guitar player and the lead guitar player. So if anybody wants to talk and be upfront, it's definitely us. So.
That is true.
Yeah, I'd say you guys are the key members.
I think Twin Citizen was one of the first band names that we came up with. And then we spent like 6 months coming up with all sorts of other band names, only to arrive back at Twin Citizen. And I think it's more of just like a play on words of the Twin Cities.
It's actually pretty surprising. I thought it would get, people just think it's a cool name. And then I'm like, yeah, like the Twin Cities. And they're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Right. It seemed intuitive to me, but maybe it's not as intuitive.
And then the other 3 members that aren't here are Paul Narlock on bass, Will Hansen on keys, and Joe Diaz is on drums.
How'd you all come together, form this awesome band?
Well, Adam put a post out on a Musicians of Minneapolis page that I was a member of on Facebook.
I had been a musician in a lot of bands ever since like early 2000s, and then took about 10 years hiatus from music because of the struggle I was in. But after treatment, my counselor at the time had encouraged me to get back into music, and so I went on Facebook, Craigslist, and just started messaging Minnesota musician Facebook groups, basically saying, I'm a person in early recovery, trying to find other bandmates who are also in early recovery. And, I guess the idea of the group would be to make music, have fun, enjoy music like a normal group would, but also to have that built-in support to kind of navigate the music scene that can be a little precarious for people who struggle with substance use and mental health. So that's where it started, and it just took probably 6 to 9 months to nail down a lineup, and we've been writing, recording, performing ever since, and doing it successfully in recovery.
How do you guys write? Who writes the songs? How do you get together and make your awesome music?
I've never been part of a project that has this many creative forces behind it. There are, I think, all 4 of us polyphonic instrument players have contributed something composition-wise. Sometimes it's all 5 of us in a room kind of putting it together, and other times somebody brings a fully cooked idea to the table. Everybody has brought their own song and had people work it through and flesh it out and make it better than it was when it got there. Probably my favorite part of that is with 4 different writers, you tend to get a wider array of sounds and landscapes and ideas than you would get if there were just one person behind the songwriting.
Because we have 4 different people who write music, we have a lot of influences that come into each song. And so I think feels a little cliche to say, but a lot of our songs really are really all over the place.
Yeah.
Stylistically, genre. So that is, I think, a strength of ours, is that we don't fall into any particular genre. We're not a rock band. We're not just an indie band. We're not a synth band. We're not a funk band. So we do all of those things pretty well. So,
well, fortunately, nobody's challenged me on my lyrics because I can be a bit of a jerk about that. But we have had disagreements, but it's all been civil. I think it's easier for egos to get out of the way. Everybody's idea gets tried. We definitely want to give it a shot and see what it sounds like. But generally, we'll come to a consensus on what the song wants. And I think that's an important part of the creative process, is to listen to your piece. And a lot of the time it'll tell you what needs to be there and what doesn't work and what does work. You just have to kind of let it breathe a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, like, musically, we don't have struggles getting along or writing, but then every band also has like a dad of a band. And our drummer, Joe Diaz, is very much like that. And so he seems to be the voice of reason when there is something that isn't necessarily landing or being agreed upon. So he helps navigate that. We have a lot of trust in him to be kind of an executive decision maker in those moments. Navigate being like assertive and understanding and forgiving and compassionate. All of those things that you have to do in recovery to like be a healthy, happy person. All of us tend to bring to the table. And so
love that. Yeah, principles over personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. So out of the shows, okay, I'm just gonna multiply it. a bunch of questions into one. Where have you played in St. Paul or in the Twin Cities? What has been one of your favorite shows or venues that you played at or most memorable to you, and why? And then also, what's your dream platform?
So we've played all over the Twin Cities. Driftwood and the Underground Music Cafe have been the only two that we've played twice.
Yeah.
For me, my favorite show had to have been our headlining show at the 7th Street Entry. It's hard to beat that. We put a heck of a lot of work into it, promoting that show. I think 6 months went into just landing that show. We came, on a Thursday night when it was negative 10 degrees outside. We came like 21 people or something away from selling it out on a Thursday. And it was just not only that, but everyone stayed until the end. So we ended up like headlining that show and playing last, which we don't always do when we headline. And everyone stayed, and it was just an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And just being able to sit back and watch that take place was really awesome. For me, the next step down the road where like I really want to get to is playing on the main stage at First Avenue. That would be to be able to be on that stage in some capacities.
Yeah, I agree that 7th Street Entry was probably one of the best nights of my life. As a grown-up indie kid, the list of names that have played that stage is just staggering. And to get to be one of them is always going to be something I treasure. I had to take some like mental snapshots that night, looking over at the crowd and seeing people sing along to my lyrics, which was a trip. You see that you're getting streams and that people are paying attention, but that really humanized that for me in a big way. Yeah, that was a great night. We had a great bill put together with Airship Caravan, Red Eye Ruby, and Ginny and the Fizz. Just great energy in the crowd and from all the bands. That was fantastic. I'd love to play the main room, kind of the zenith, what you can reach here for legendary purposes, or however you want to put that. I'd love to play like a festival, big festival, like Bonnaroo or Lollapalooza or something. That's always been a big dream of mine. So this is kind of the most attention any music I've made's ever gotten, with the radio play and people showing up to our shows. I think we have groupies now. It's wild. And it had to come when I'm in my 30s with a family and a career I enjoy. So I'm perfectly content being local famous if we can be. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. I was wondering, when you're creating songs, when you're especially sitting down and writing a song, how do you combat maybe writer's block? Do you have like a daily routine? Do you have something that kind of puts you in that zen space or that flow space to write, like artistic space?
I don't have time for writer's block. I'm too busy, and there's an expectation to show up prepared to practice, and there have been times when I've literally just locked myself in a room and forced myself to write a song, and it has worked almost every time. But I wouldn't say I have a ritual at all, especially for melodies. It's kind of, I like to think I have an antenna up, and sometimes a signal comes in, I'll get a song stuck in my head, I'll realize it's not somebody else's song, and now I gotta either get to a guitar or sing it into my voice memo, or those are usually my favorite ideas, are the ones that just happen spontaneously. The other time, it's tough for me to write to other people's compositions sometimes, so those are the times when I really have to be intentional about the writing aspect of it and make myself do it and be disciplined. Spend 4 hours to write a 4-minute song, or at least 4 minutes of singing on a 7.5-minute song, I think is probably more accurate for us. But yeah, it's much less ritualistic for me and more kind of keeping my mind open to new ideas and having them happen to me as they come.
Yeah, I'd say for myself, earlier on in our writing, I came in writing a lot of music electronically first, and then building guitar around that. And so I had a Tempest drum machine, also works as a sequencer and synthesizer. And so I was doing a lot of like my writing electronically and then transferring over it. And more recently, I've just been writing more kind of like Joe said, with my antenna up. I'm currently working full-time, getting my master's full-time. I have a 7-month-old at home, family life, all sorts of stuff going on. And so I have to really pay attention to like when I'm in a creative mode and take advantage of those times, because I really have to be on top of I kind of block off 4 hours or so for me to write and then have rehearsal. So I usually am writing and practicing 2 or 3 hours before we rehearse, and then we do rehearsal, and then I can kind of bring some of my ideas at that time. So that's also just bouncing ideas like through voice memos and stuff through the band. We have a band chat that we send things to each other on, and if I get something from Joe or one of the other guys, I'll try and have them record like a scratch track on.
For me, that's what I need the most, is to hear it a lot, to get it stuck in my head when it's a new idea, so that I can come up with a new melody for it, just because I know the song well enough to have it stuck in my head. And I get to listen to music all day at work. I do hardwood floors for a living, so a lot of the time I'm just working a sander for 7 or 8 hours in a row, so I can just listen to whatever I want to. I definitely think that taking advantage of those ideas when they hit, like Adam said, is really important. I try not to let an idea go to waste, because they're precious. You never know which one's gonna blossom into your next favorite song of yours. And every time I think I have a favorite Twin Citizens song, somebody brings a new song to the table, and then that one's my favorite Twin Citizens song, at least for a couple weeks.
Oh, that's perfect. That leads me into my next question. What is your favorite songs to perform or play? And then also, what has been like your most maybe deepest or meaningful songs that you've written?
Right now, we have a song called Karma Confidential that I have a really good time with live. Go way up into my falsetto and try to sing like the guy from the Temper Trap, so that's super fun. Got a lot of varying tempos and movements, and I really like that. Domino is a fun one live. That one was quite a journey from point A to points unknown and back to point A again. Most meaningful one for me, I think, of the bunch would probably be Everywhere I Roam. I sat on that melody for a long time waiting for the right band. I knew early on with these guys that it was going to be them. I just had to take the time to sit and write the lyrics, and kind of a depressing song, but I had to write about the me before I went to treatment in 2020, and I feel like I really captured that feeling of desperation and kind of wallowing in it. There's not really a hopeful twist to the lyrics like I try to do with the rest of mine, but what these guys did with that song, having been something that I sat on for so long and was so near and dear to me, I just treasure that. It's one of my favorites.
My favorite song of ours, man, that's a good question. The most meaningful. So Splinter is probably the most meaningful to me. We just released Splinter on Friday last week. It's a song I hadn't really played guitar like religiously for 4 or 5 years when I went to treatment, and they had this like ratty guitar at the treatment center I was at, and that was the first song that I started messing around with in 2019 while I was at River Ridge in treatment. I was also, while I was there, I was like playing in front of people for the first time in like 5 years, because I had been a hermit pretty much up until that point. And then to just watch that song kind of unfold and develop into what it is almost 3.5 years later, 4 years later, is pretty special. Most fun, I really like playing Escape Room. It's funky. I'm playing really slappy like guitar rhythms on it, and it's very much in the style of music that I grew up loving, and it's also very simple in a lot of ways, and so it's really got a pop feel that really is counterintuitive to my typical favorite type of music. So
Splinter was the other candidate for most meaningful for me. I don't know, I like to write weird love songs to Val, and that one is definitely a weird love song. And so, but that song definitely has come a long way from the initial concept that we've had, and I think it's kind of objectively our best song, if I had to pick. So I'm really excited that that's finally
we
out.
always end with that song. It's kind of epic. It has an epic vibe to it.
It's a journey, and I'm so glad it's finally out and people can listen to it, because I think that song needs to be heard.
For sure.
Would you mind talking about what Splinter is actually about and what Everywhere I Roam is really about?
I try to keep my ideas open-ended when I write. I don't need for it to be too specific, although both those songs are very autobiographical in nature. Everywhere I Roam is kind of, the chorus is, I sleep in on weekends and I drink alone. Don't ease my worries, but it's the only thing I know. and I'm never closer anywhere I roam. It's a roller coaster that's taken me far away from home. I had written that chorus before I got sober, and it was accurate to my lifestyle at the time. Being able to sing that from the other side of recovery and having some time into it and feeling like I have a good foothold of it, there's something about that contrast to how I feel singing it and performing it to how I felt when I wrote it that I really like. Splinter I wrote because I'd gotten in a huge fight with my girlfriend, and I kind of wrote that letter as a mea culpa, I guess, in a way. I didn't necessarily go into it anticipating that that's what I was going to write about, but it ended up coming out that way. Seeking forgiveness or reassuring somebody that you may have harmed, whether intentionally or otherwise, that you're still going to be there for them and that you're in it for the long haul.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And now I gotta it was just released on Friday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's one of my favorite questions. Who inspires you? Now I leave that really open and vague.
Musically, these guys all do. And a lot of my friends in the local scene, just being a part of that and seeing what other people are doing around you, your peers, it's not necessarily a competitive drive that comes with it, but it's kind of a similar feeling where, hey, if they can do that, I should be doing that too, so let's get to work. It's really inspiring to be a part of a scene where there are so many people who, will probably never make it big, but they're going to keep playing because they love it, because they have to. And they're constantly writing and creating new music and finding new ways to entertain, and definitely want to keep up with them.
The recovery community inspires me. I work as a counselor at a treatment center, and so every day I get to show up and see people who have been really beaten down over long periods of time, and so watching them overcome their challenges and struggles and learn a new way to live life is a incredibly inspiring thing to see. I think the recovery community in general has a superpower that most normal people do not have when they redirect their energy towards positivity and support of others. Musically, I would be a fool not to talk about my favorite musician, Jean Frusciante. I think he is an uncompromising musician, one of the most hardworking and prolific songwriters, not just in the band he's in, but his own solo music and who he works with. Everything from like Duran Duran to RZA. So it's just I've grown up listening and watching him, so that's been really inspiring to me. We could spend all night.
Yeah, like yours is definitely John Frusciante. I'm probably gonna have to name Ben Gibbard from Death Cab. Just the earnest sincerity behind his writing and his melodic ear, whether intentionally or not, take some cues from.
Right.
Will, our keyboardist, came from kind of an EDM background. Joe Diaz can play any kind of style under the sun. Paul's kind of got that funky thing going too, and
it's like that reggae and ska kind of vibe.
Yeah, we all come from very different backgrounds.
I love that. Yeah, humility. You guys are very humble on your answers there.
Well, it's kind of necessary for our lifestyle, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a strength. Lived experience really goes a long way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times our humility comes from hearing ourselves. A lot of the time when we have a new song, or I'll hear my voice on a recording and I just kind of cringe, and everybody else tells me it sounds fine. I've had to learn how to believe people when they tell me it sounds good, because it's very easy to fall into the trap of complete self-deprecation, which I think is really off-putting for an audience that sincerely enjoyed your music, for you to tell them like, oh no, you have crap taste then because we suck. So I think there's a wide gap between that and.
So do you get nervous anymore? And like
every time.
What? Okay, I was gonna say, what do you do? Now, a lot of people listening too. What do you do when you get nervous?
I don't know if I'd necessarily call it stage fright. It's kind of similar to the feeling I used to get when I ran track before a race, where I was nervous, but I'm also like ready to go. Let's do this right now. I always say the day I stop getting nervous, I should probably quit. I look forward to it. Those nerves are part of it. You acknowledge that they're there. It's kind of like urge surfing in early recovery. Acknowledge it and you just wait it out. Once I get up there and I've got these guys playing behind me and crowds dancing and the sounds moving, There's no feeling like that in the world. And then by then the nerves are gone, and it's just on the best nights, it's that pure flow state where you're just lucid and in the moment. And what I've found about Minnesota and Twin Cities audiences is that they will give you a chance. So just go do it. You get it over with. You get your first time over with. It might be great. It might suck. Whatever. They'll give you a chance next time too. There's a lot of great open mics around the cities where I got my start playing around here. Just a lot of good people to network with that will encourage you and want you to succeed and want you to perform well. So nobody is out there listening to your music wanting to, nobody shows up to a show like, hey, I'm going to try to find a band to trash and I hope they suck so I can talk trash about them. That's not really the vibe I've ever had here. Other cities can be like that. Around here, I think there's just been a lot of love from every audience I've ever played with. So just get out there and do it.
The more I do it, the more I feel capable of walking through that anxiety and being successful, getting through it, enjoying myself. And there's pride that goes into that of like, I'm a person in recovery and I don't need to use alcohol and drugs to calm my nerves right now. I can do this. That was harder earlier on and it's getting easier and easier. But like Joe said, now I'm starting to get to a place like where the anxiety is more of a driving force for like excitement and energy, keeping me on point and keeping me sharp. Remembering that it's okay to not be perfect, to just like be in the moment, in the present moment, and enjoy what you're doing, to experience it in its fullest. I think that's what's really cool about our band is that we don't have alcohol and drugs as part of our process. All of us on stage are experiencing that performance in its fullest as like our authentic selves.
Yeah.
And that's a really rewarding experience, I think. And the reason why this band is probably the most rewarding band I've ever been in.
Definitely. Like I said before, learning how to believe people when they said I sounded good was something I had to learn.
Yeah.
And also knowing that your favorite artists, your favorite songs, they probably listen to their own music and hear their mistakes more than they actually hear the song itself. And so that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And deep down, if you know you got something good, you're probably right. So just send it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
Just doing yoga breathing in the green room.
Yeah. Doing mindfulness exercises in like mid-show. So
I can ride the anxiety out.
I heart every single thing you guys just said. I connected with everything.
Nice.
Okay, I had to take notes. I love that because it's so true, and especially in the world of musicians and bands and tours and all that. You know, I definitely had to run myself, but I love that you show up. I love the word authentic, you know, clear-minded, like I do recovery dharma, and just practicing being comfortable with uncomfortability.
Yeah.
And I almost thrive off of it because it does, once you get through it. It's so empowering and inspiring, you guys.
Yeah, it's like you can't control your feelings, but you do control how you react to them.
Yeah.
And I am lucky to have an awesome support network around me that is very good at reminding me that it gets better. I think that what Adam just said of letting those thoughts be what they are, acknowledging them and their temporary nature as they go right by you is a crucial part of something that I had to learn very early on. But now after a few years, I would not have the foothold on my sobriety that I have if not for these guys. Like, because if I have difficult time with it or something, I have 3 other different perspectives that I can hear from the guys who have more time than me. You know, I remember that. I remember feeling that way. Here's what I did, or it'll get better, or just even saying it out loud and getting it off your chest to people that you know understand. That's just that I think as humans we're always looking for that kind of connection, whether that's talking about recovery or relating to a song or enjoying music from either the creator or the audience. That connection is what you're ultimately looking for. We have a very unique one between the 5 of us, and I've never experienced anything like it. So
well, that's the cool thing is that was the like outside of the idea of like being in a band and having fun, writing music, playing shows, recording music, sharing art. The purpose of this whole thing, from my perspective, when I first started, was like, how do I stay sober and have connection with other men in my life that's positive and like at a point now where, you know, all of us that started this thing are all working on what now, 4 years. Yeah. And it's all started this band that, like, outside of Joe, who our drummer has been in recovery for a little longer, but we were all 1 year-ish when we met, and now we're all working on 4. The music around, like, supporting each other's healthy lifestyles, and we're still all doing it, which is pretty miraculous.
Yeah, and it's been a journey. It got out of treatment right before the world shut down, and
Same.
By the time, you know, we were allowed to go play and be with other people, you know, it was still pretty new at that point in late 2020 that we weren't really sure how to navigate everything in a room with each other and make music for the first time. That was really, really special for me, just because that connection had been missing for so long. When you're isolated or staying home or not allowed to be out in public with your friends, and, you know, I'm, like I said before, I'm kind of an anxious person too by nature, and so it was kind of intimidating for me to come out and play with a bunch of people I'd never met and try to make something new. But now that I have this band, I really don't know what I would do without it. I really love these guys, and I love the music we make, and everybody puts in an honest effort and honest heart and passion into it. And when I first got sober, I was really scared that I would lose the creativity and that it wouldn't happen to me, you know, that antenna wouldn't be up anymore. And I remember reading an interview with, it had Steven Tyler, Jason Isbell, and Julian Baker, and they are all clean and sober, and they were talking about how their creative processes took a while to come back. Kept picking up the guitar every day and hoping something would happen. Yeah, the universe led me to these guys.
And get to feel those feelings.
Yeah.
Get to express myself in one of the truest ways I know how, with a bunch of people who I know understand it.
I've been to many, many shows, and after shows, you know, it's all the post shows. That's where the partying happens. And, you know, after performing, of course, there's that adrenaline high, there's that high on life, and you want to celebrate and party. And so what do you do when you're, you know, you do want to go out and celebrate, you do want to go out and party? Like, what kind of things do you guys do?
It's easier for me because I genuinely do have a ton of gratitude for people who show up and dance, and, like, we can't do it without you. Like, the people, you guys, you are listening to this podcast, you guys who show up to local shows and listen to local bands and buy their merch, and I love you so much. You are literally the coolest type of person, and there are so many of them in the Twin Cities, and when I really think inside that gratitude that I have for that, it makes it a lot easier for me to be fun after a show. And, you know, I work a pretty physical job, and then I just sit up there with a 20-pound guitar for an hour. But my love for the people dancing and listening and showing up is genuine and real.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
So plug it up, you guys. What's coming up? Where can people find you? What shows do you have coming up? Floor is yours.
Yeah. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. It is Twin Citizen MN Music. So we do have an official website. It's twincitizenmnmusic.com. So we've got a show not this Saturday, but next Saturday at KJ's Hideaway. We have another show at the Terminal on May 13th, the Amsterdam on June 10th.
That's gonna
man, we're booked out all the way through August. So if you go to any of those social media pages or our official website, everything is up to date. Check us out. Thank you for having us. I think the biggest thing, keep the eyes on the prize. It's worth it. And reach out to us anytime you want support.
As well, because we are very vocal about that. I wouldn't have gotten to where I'm now just to be an example of the promises. And
Recovery out loud. That's what's up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening.
And we'll see you at the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the shows.
Yeah. All the shows.
All the shows. Come to every single one.
I was wrong in the first place in so many ways, and I'll admit it now. You caught me crawling in a foot race and wagered it all on how it turned out. Couldn't leave it alone, couldn't help but join me in the deep end. Didn't Don't you wander away. Don't you squander all our yesterdays. Ooh, come on, my little wonder, if we can weather the war. I'll be darkening your open door. I've been thinking about this time I owe. How I'm glad I didn't die alone. How I fucked around and broke your soul into splinters. And I wanna get it paid in full. Yeah, I wanna be incredible. Stoke your fire through the dark and cold of the winter. If my season hadn't changed, if I'd never known your name, if my season hadn't changed, ooh, come on, my little wonder, don't you wander away. Don't you squander all our yesterdays. Ooh, come on, my little wonder, if we can weather the war. I'll be darkening your open door. I've been thinking about this time I owe. How I'm glad I didn't die alone. How I fucked around and broke your soul into splinters. And I wanna get it paid in full. Yeah, I wanna be incredible. Stoke your fire through the dark and cold of the winter. If my season hadn't changed,
Thank you for listening on WFNU 94.1 FM, Frogtown Community Radio, St. Paul, Twin Cities.
Permission to land.
Check out the Creators Canvas podcast on Anchor, Spotify, or YouTube. Go to WFNU.org/creators for all the current information.
Mission accomplished.
Namaste.
Mary, when I wrote this, I was hoping you'd notice, but all of my efforts died in vain. They're pushing up roses. Mary, it seems to be one of memory's many wonders, but I can't seem to see the forest for the trees or the sea for the ships gone under. And I'm such a newborn. How was I to know the infinite fortune I'd find in time outside of my sorrow? So I'm sleeping on weekends and I drink alone. It don't ease my worries, but it's the only thing I know. And I'm never closer anywhere I roam. It's a roller coaster and it's taking me far away from home. Mary, when I wrote this, I was losing my focus, but I've learned I